please pause the video and take the time to read this important legal disclaimer. All trades and ideas on this stream are for educational purposes only. Flow Trading, its employees or associates are not liable for your trading profits or losses. All information is general market commentary and does not constitute investment or financial advice. We are not financial advisors, and this information is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Thank you. So welcome and good afternoon to another technical analysis update. Today is the 20th of May and it's just coming up to 2 p.m. here in the UK. So just please bear with me whilst I check that everything's working fine for the audio and the video. And video seems to be working okay. And let's check the audio. Yep, everything's working fine. Okay, that's great. So I'm disabling the comments. I have to address something. I've disabled the comments for new subscribers here because I'm getting a lot of spam bots replying to leaving comments, with basically scams and spam in the comments. And what's happened is that YouTube decided to kind of lock my account and make my videos private instead of public. As a result of that, I've disabled all comments for people that have subscribed for less than 3 days. So I apologize for that, but it's really just for the best. Good evening, Jay. Nice to have you here again. And I hope you have a great weekend too. So anyway, with that said, let's move on and crack on straight away. Everything seems to be working fine, so move on swiftly. We've got the cryptocurrency heat map here for obviously for crypto, and you can see that there's not much in the way of a recovery. There's a little bit of a bounce. There was a bounce yesterday basically, and you can see that some of these altcoins are reflecting that, with some in sort of like between 2 and 5%. There's a few exceptions. Some are in the double digits, like Atom here is at 13%. There's a few that have kind of bounced okay, like 8% or something, but nothing worth writing home about, if you know what I mean. It's not really that special, but there is definitely a little bit of a relief bounce going on, and I'll show you on the charts why in just a minute. In the stock market, you can see that the great majority of it is in the red, with a very few exceptions. McDonald's is still definitely in the red, and so is Disney, so no Mickey Mouse or McDonald's for you guys. Regarding next week and going into the weekend, how you should prepare. Next week we've got a couple of important meetings that could cause some volatility in the markets, and I will highlight those now. And the first one here is the Bank of England on Monday at 5:15 UK time. So the government of the Bank of England is doing a little talk. And this is at 5 p.m. on Monday, so this could cause some volatility in the markets, especially if there's disparaging comments about crypto and everything else, okay, regarding regulations, etc. There is also a ECB, which is the European Central Bank Financial Stability Review here. This is on Wednesday, May the 25th, but more importantly, on Wednesday at 7 p.m. we've got the FOMC meeting minutes, and this is the minutes from the previous meeting that we've had just 2 or 3 weeks ago on the 4th of May. So why does this matter? Well, this could create some volatility, and I'll show you an interesting concept in just a minute of another trader that I follow on Twitter that has come up with a nice haiku. So I'll show you that in just a second. You can also see that we've got the core PCE price index coming on Friday at 1:30 p.m. Okay, so we've got a few volatility days or potential volatility coming on specific times during next week. The haiku that I was talking about is just an SAP haiku by Dharma Trade. And Dharma Trade wrote, you buy the meeting and then you sell the minutes. Prosper very much. Okay, so this chart that he's talking about is the S&P, and interestingly he looked back at a few samples. I mean, this is not like, there's not a huge sample sample number here, but interestingly enough, on the 24th of January the FOMC meeting happened and the price rallied. Okay, then a few weeks later they released the minutes, and what happens? The price dumped. A few weeks later, another FOMC meeting in March the 15th or 16th, and what happens? The price rallied. And then, of course, a few weeks later, the FOMC minutes are released, and of course what happened, this was at 4,483, and the price dumped. We're well below the 4,000 now. So this is just something that happened that I noticed a few weeks ago. I didn't really bring it to attention or anything, but like I said, there's the FOMC meetings are happening on Wednesday. So the minutes are being released on Wednesday. So we'll see what the market does to that. I thought it was just an interesting observation anyway. Regarding why I'm talking about the traditional finance, if you're new here, you will notice that I'm always starting with the S&P and the Nasdaq, and this is because Bitcoin is so closely correlated to these indexes, or indices, should I say. So this is an example of a chart. It's the 1 hour chart of the Nasdaq. This is delayed by 10 minutes, by the way. I do not buy the price feed, but just to give you an example, really, all the way back from February, you can see, and even before really, but you can see how closely correlated this is, right? So then every single move is preceded preceded by Bitcoin or preceded by the Nasdaq. Okay, it's very closely correlated, and there's no denying in that. Just by looking at this, you can see that. Okay, so that's an interesting concept, and it hasn't changed. Okay, so really there's been a little bit more volatility here in the traditional markets. The Nasdaq is in blue, the Bitcoin is in orange, of course, and you can see that there's less volatile on Bitcoin, but at times the opposite is true, and Bitcoin is more volatile than the Nasdaq. Okay, so it largely depends on market conditions and if it's regular trading hours or if it's the weekend, etc. But you can see that they're like, apart from a few discrepancies, it's very closely correlated. So with that in mind, just please bear with me whilst I talk a little bit about traditional finance and the traditional legacy markets. I don't really like doing that because I'm not an expert. It's not an area of my expertise, but since they're so closely correlated, I think it's my duty to do so, and that's why we look at the traditional finance models. Okay, so let's start with the Nasdaq here, and on the Nasdaq you can see here, this is the 3-day chart. I'm going to make it bigger here, so you can see that the markets did try break above this level here to enter this double distribution, this high volume cluster. Okay, it went all the way up there and then it dumped. All right, so we got below this previous level here, which I've got highlighted with a yellow line, which is a low volume node. Okay, we got below that. We could not get back above it, even though there was a little bit of volatility there from this week's meetings. And of course we are below it now, and we're kind of well within this little mini structure here, okay, which you could argue that it's actually part of a much larger structure here, with a much larger balance area. Of course we've got a low volume node here and a low volume node here, but more importantly this one here, this is the edge of balance. Okay, so if we are to get acceptance below it, this is where the price is likely to go. Okay, so basically failing this level here in the blue line, failing this and then failing to get back above it, I think it will bring us all the way down to here. And this low volume node also has confluence with the 2020 VWAP close. Okay, you can see that effectively where we're bouncing now, it's very close to the value area high of the 2020 VWAP close as well. Okay, so with the value area high of the 2020 VWAP close. Okay, this is the VWAP, this is the value area high, this is the value area low. So the price is bounced almost directly on that line, as you can see here. Okay, which also has confluence with this little low volume node there. So make of that what you will, but this is basically what I'm seeing here on the 3-day chart. Okay, so if we look at the smaller time frames, and if we look at this in a little bit more detail, you can see here that we are above the daily VWAP. Okay, and we got acceptance inside and rotational inside the current week's value area low of the weekly VWAP. Okay, here on the 4-hour chart you can see this. I'm going to make this bigger. You can see that the price failed at the monthly VWAP, as you can see here. This is the red line here, is the monthly VWAP, and we failed there, which also had confluence with this low volume node. Right, I did put a red dotted line there, which is basically the line in the sand, and if we could get above that, then we were likely to go up, but of course we didn't. All right, so we got sort of stumped here at the monthly VWAP. We came all the way back down to a previous level of support, which is highlighted with the blue line, and now we're kind of attempting to get back above. We are not being accepted inside the value area low of the monthly VWAP. Okay, so we're below value still. Okay, and there's also a low volume node here. So the most likely thing to happen over the weekend is that this kind of slowly bleeds and we get back to the lows of the range. All right, so we'll have to wait and see what comes of next week, but this is pretty much the week done for now. I don't see this rallying, but if it does rallying, then it needs to stay above this yellow line here. It needs to break above the monthly VWAP, and potentially it could reverse here. Okay, if it breaks above this one, then of course we've got a larger area of balance here, and we'll have to contend with this previous month value area low, but there's predominantly this low volume area is where I'd be looking at for price reversal, okay, or at least for some resistance. So that's what I'm seeing on the lower time frames for the Nasdaq. And I think in terms of confluent areas, I mean, we are above the daily VWAP, which is potentially a good sign, okay, and we are kind of sitting on the value area low of the monthly VWAP, but until we actually break above and take out this line here, the yellow line, which is the current week's VWAP, I don't see any chance of this getting above 12,200, which is basically where that yellow line is. Okay, if we break above this, then I think we've got a good chance to coming and testing this monthly VWAP. As you can see, I'll put a little circle there. It has confluence on the weekly chart here with the value area high of the this area here, okay, which is, as you can see from this chart, it's very close to the monthly VWAP, value area high of the weekly VWAP. Okay, so that's the confluence that I'm seeing there for the upside. For the downside, I think the only line of support that we've got is basically where this double bottom is formed here, and there's clearly a little bit of support there because it is, like I said, the 2020 value area high, and it's also a low volume area here that I've highlighted on the top chart. Okay, so that's why it's causing support. Break that, and I think it's a long way down for the Nasdaq. Okay, so moving on to the S&P, very much the same scenario. We are below, let me just move this here. We are below this low volume area here. It's causing resistance at the moment, even though there was volatility. And so as long as we stay below this yellow line here, right, this is resistance until proven otherwise. Okay, you can see here that we've bounced very much on the value area low of the previous year's VWAP, okay, of the 2021 VWAP. So this is a good sign, but like I said, and you know, we've got very strong resistance right above us, and unless we can overcome that, there is no chance of us getting acceptance inside of this distribution. Okay, so we've got a big block here by this yellow line and this red line. All right, if we accept above this, if we do something like this, come here to resistance and then break above this next week, then I think we've got a very good chance of putting this low volume area as support, and then this would rally. And that of course would mean that Bitcoin would rally too, because they're so closely correlated, okay, the S&P and the Nasdaq. Of course, failing to, this is the bullish case scenario. The bearish case scenario is, of course, that we fail at this yellow line, which right now it looks like it's the most likely thing to happen. We fail at this yellow line, which is around about 3,989, let's say 399 or 3,900. Sorry, 3,990, should I say? And if we fail at this line, well, say 4,000, just to be on the, just round it up. Let's say if it fails at 4,000, I think that the next level of support will be this value area high from the 2020 VWAP, okay, which also has confluence with this low volume area here. So basically getting acceptance inside of this volume cluster. All right, so that's what I'm seeing on the higher time frames here for the S&P. And again, on the S&P, very much the same scenario in the sense where we can we are getting rejected at the value area low of the monthly VWAP, okay, which is also confluence with this low volume area here. Okay, so we're getting rejected there, as you can clearly see, and this also has confluence with the low volume area above us. All right, So if we break above this, we are above the daily VWAP, so there's a little sign of hope there. If we could break above and get acceptance back inside of this value area here of the monthly, means that we are rotational inside of this bigger area here, right? And we could go at least all the way to around about 4,000, like I said, which is where the weekly VWAP is, and that low volume area. Okay. However, you can look here over to the right, and this circle that I've just drawn is right in the middle of nowhere in terms of the 4-hour chart. Okay, so real resistance is round about here as well at 4045. So even if we break above 4,000, it doesn't mean that we're just going to go straight up. We've got strong resistance here around about 4050. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing on the S&P on the lower time frames as well. So, and I think that's pretty much enough for that. So as you can see, very bearish case scenario, and it's basically a resistance that we're at until proven otherwise. If we can get above that resistance, then we're good to go, and of course this will pull all of the other markets up with it. But we need that vote of confidence in order to sort of be bullish in the crypto markets if it's going to remain as closely correlated as it is. So with all that said, let's move on to Bitcoin, and we start here with a 3-day chart. Basically nothing much has changed. The song remains the same. We are kind of hovering here. We're bouncing on these on the edge of this, right? We're bouncing here, right? Which, if you have observational skills, you can see that this is a high volume cluster here, right? So as we bounce on this area, in fact, you can see from my crosshairs, I don't have to put a line there. If we keep bouncing on that area, it does look like we're trying to find acceptance inside of this volume cluster. So this could be a very good opportunity for a long position. However, from a different perspective, without looking too much at volume, we've got a weekly level above us, which is still that same level that I was talking about all week, which is around about 31,800. So let's say 32k. And I think this is going to be really the line in the sand. If we can break above this, then I think we've got a very good chance to assume that we've got acceptance inside of this high volume cluster, meaning that we've got a good probability that we go and revisit the other side of balance around about 45,000, or at least potentially to 40,000, where the yearly VWAP is, okay, which is this higher volume node as well, point of control. So with that in mind, that's the bullish case scenario, but we do need to get acceptance above this 32k level, 31,800, something like that, okay? So of course, if we do get rejected there, if we come up to here, or even if we overshoot it a little bit and then find acceptance back below it, then I think we're doomed to go a little bit lower and find where the next level of liquidity is. So you can see in terms of liquidity, there's not a lot here in terms of volume, right? It's a low volume area, so that's why it's acting as support, but the price will travel very quickly through there as there is no volume. There's a liquidity void. So the price will find itself very, very quickly around the $20,000 mark. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So we're at an inflection point. This could potentially be the mother of all shorts here. A very good short trade, because like I said, the price traveled very quickly through here. It left a liquidity void behind, so there's hardly any volume there to support the price. So it'll travel very quickly through there. However, it is support until proven otherwise. And like I said, if it continues to be support and we manage to break this key level, then I think we're on our way up. So that's the higher time frame kind of outlook on it. If we look at the lower time frames, we see here, let's start with a 4-hour chart. In fact, no, let's have a look at the quarterly. And you can see here on the quarterly on the top right hand corner, we are trying to find acceptance inside of the quarterly value area. Okay, obviously we kind of broke above it and we're kind of just testing the lows of that. So let's see how that pans out for over the weekend. In terms of the 4-hour chart, which is the monthly VWAP here, it's a very clear range that has formed, and you can see that we are rotational inside of the value area of the monthly VWAP, which is this gray area that you can see here. It's also very easy to put on a range. I think I had a range here somewhere. It doesn't matter, I'll do it again. So I'd be inclined to add this range like this, okay, and consider that this here is just merely a deviation. Okay, so we've tapped the lows, we've gone to the highs, we kind of bounced around here in the middle. Okay, when we've lost the middle, we came and tested the lows again. Now we've reclaimed the middle bit. It's just been reclaimed here, okay, and confirmed that. So we could potentially be going all the way to about $31,000. Okay, now how do we trade this, and how would you trade this? Now, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not a financial advisor, as you heard from the trade disclaimer at the beginning of this stream, but I can tell you how I would trade it. Okay, we break above the range. It could always be just a deviation like this one here, right? So if we break above the range and we reclaim that level that I was talking about, that key level of 31,800 and the monthly VWAP, then what I want to see is either a retest of that level to confirm it as support, right, which we might not get. It might be a big impulse and go all the way to the next level of 36,000, but that's unlikely unless there's like some news event or something like that. But I want to see either a shallow reclaim of this level, meaning retap, confirm that this is support, and then the price rallies, or a little bit of a deeper reclaim where it touches the highs of the previous range that we've been in and then rallies. Okay, this here is your entry for a long, or my entry for a long. However, if the price does go above like this, I'm not going to take the short immediately. I'm not, I will take a long position if this reclaims here. Okay, this is like the bullish case scenario. If it reclaims and does not come down, all right, or even if it comes down to the edge of this. However, if the price comes back and falls back inside of this range, for me, that's a short, all right, and I'll be targeting at least the lows of the range. All right, where we've left a pull low, which I'll show you in a minute, and there's also a naked point of control just below that, around about 28,600, something like that. So that's the short entry there. It's breaking above, but then coming back inside the range. That will tell me that this was just like here, a deviation. That's the confirmation of a deviation. Okay, so I'm not interested in chasing price up. I'm not interested in chasing price down. Obviously, the best short would be all the way from up here, but this could come all the way up here and then just bounce, right? So I'm waiting for confirmation on these trades, and I've reduced size because obviously we are in a sort of an inflection point. I'd much rather wait for confirmation and see where I am, right, and for the market to show its hand than to try and guess. Okay, I'm not in a guessing game. That's not what I do. All right, so those are the confirmations that I want to see. Again, break above and retain. Do not go back inside of this range. For me, that's a long position. If we accept back inside of this range here and then fail to get out of it, so basically come back inside and then fail to get out, revisiting the top here, that for me is the short signal, and I'll be targeting these levels. And like I showed you on the higher time frames just a few minutes ago, we could potentially go a lot further down, all the way to $20,000. So I won't be closing the full trade here. I'll just be taking some profits. That's what I do. Okay, so just to give you an idea. Of course, the opposite is true. If we revisit the bottom of the range, then what I want to see for a dump is not accepting back inside of this range. Okay, so let's say we break below, we take the lows. Okay, if the price starts going back up again, gets here and starts rolling over, that's my entry for a short. Okay, it's not got acceptance back inside the range. However, if the price does go up, accepts back inside the range and retaps the edge of this range, this is acceptance, especially if it starts curling up. Okay, and this here would be my entry for a long position. Okay, and I'll be targeting first of all the range highs, potentially this clusterfuck of levels here, which is basically the monthly VWAP and this weekly level at 31,800. I'll be taking some profits around about here between 31,000 and 32,000, but then I would be leaving some on because we could potentially break straight through this and go all the way to the next level around about $36,000. Okay, so I hope that makes it clear. I've explained to you the dynamics and the market mechanics and how the whales are disadvantaged to us and how they need to enter positions on breaking key levels and opposing order flow. And if you want to know more about this, then please join the Discord group. The link is in the description, and I'll be happy to explain this again. But I think it goes beyond the scope of this technical analysis today. But I'll give you a clue. It's about liquidity, and obviously with bigger size you need opposing order flow and opposing liquidity in order to enter your trades without moving the price. Okay, so obvious stops here is where everybody that's long puts their stops, and everybody that's shorts put their stops right up here. Okay, so that's basically that's the basic concept of it. So anyway, moving on, this is what I'm seeing on Bitcoin. I'm not sure if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down, but I've given you some key levels here that you can come back and watch over time. You've got the key resistance level here, which is the monthly VWAP, which I'm going to put a little circle here, right? Monthly VWAP at that weekly level, which is highlighted here at the top as well. Okay, so if I was to take that level off, you can also see here on the weekly chart that is basically last week's value area high of the weekly VWAP. Okay, so this has confluence, like I showed you now. I'm going to show you now, as confluence, perfect confluence with that level there, which is the monthly VWAP and that weekly level. All right, so this for me is what I do. I look at confluence in different time frames, so that for me is a key level to break, and if we can break above this, then I think we've got a very good chance to go into 36,000. If we break below the range and fail to reclaim it, then I think that's a short, and I'll be targeting $20,000. Okay, that's the confirmation that we want to see for resolving this situation here, where we're not sure if we're actually currently at support and we've got acceptance inside of this, or if we're actually knocking at resistance and we're going to get knocked down all the way back down to 20,000. So that's what I've just showed you on lower time frames, that you can make that decision for yourself by looking at the lower time frames and looking for clues of where the market direction is going to go. All right, so moving on very quickly, I'm going to show you on Exocharts where we are. I'll start with the volume profile, and I'll start with the monthly. And on the monthly profile, you can see that we've got plenty of liquidity below, and that sticking out like a sore thumb is a naked point of control around about $19,000. Okay, also what I've done here is I've put a little rectangle on a previous area of balance. Okay, and you can, but what I mean by balance is that there's been plenty of volume traded there. We've been ranging there for quite some time, so we traded here for 2 months. Potentially you can argue that this is 4 months, although this is a large distribution, like a double distribution that you see here, right, or even a triple distribution, with the great majority of volume at the top, right, with the point of control way up here. However, there's plenty of volume being traded at the lows here, but you can argue that this is, if you want to be really technical, that's just 1 month there, another month here, and yet another month here, and we're kind of like tethering on the lower edge, on the value area low, if you like. So acceptance above, and again above 31,800 to 32,000 confirms that we've got a very good chance to going to at least to 37,000. So that's what I'm seeing here on the monthly. So let's have a look at the weekly volume profile. The thing that stands out here, again, around about 22,700 it's got a naked point of control, and we've got another one around about 18,000. All right, but we did leave a naked point of control above here at 43,400. Okay, we'll have to wait and see. Again, like I keep saying, we've got this significant level here, which is basically, let me just, there's no drawing tools here. It's basically what I was showing you on the candlestick chart. We've got a high volume cluster here, and we're kind of toying with the idea of breaking above the edge. Okay, so break above this, and I think we've got a very good chance to go up, right? However, we test that and we fail to get back inside of there, and I think we're going to go much lower. That's basically it. Let's have a look at the daily volume profile and see if there's any clues as to what is happening on a more granular way. So we've got a naked point of control sticking out like a sore thumb here at 27,500. This is a volume point of control here, 27,500, and we've got, like I said, that big low volume node at right about $31,000, $32,000. Okay, so we've got this here, and we've got this one here. As you can see, let me just, I don't know if you can see my cursor very well, so I'll just put those levels there. So I'm looking at this big low volume node here and this one here. Okay, so essentially what we want is we want to get acceptance above this level here. All right, so we've got a good chance to go into 35,000, potentially to 37,600, where that will be very strong resistance. All these levels are levels of interest if we break to the upside. Okay, and this dotted line that you see here is previous support. that will undoubtedly turn to resistance, as that will be the first tap. So even if we go all the way up there, don't get too excited thinking that we're going to all-time highs. 37,600 will be a very high probability trade in terms of resistance. Okay, so don't get overexcited. However, if we do break, so that's the levels for the upside. If we do break to the downside, we've got this level here, which is the naked point of control at 27,000, and we've also got some naked points of control here at 24,500, 25,000, which is very close to where we bounced from on the 11th of May. Okay, so with that in mind, that's what I'm seeing here on the volume profile. So let's have a look at the market profile for the day. So yet again, another more granular view of what's been happening. So you can see here that we've left a poor low. There's no excess on this one. Okay, so we got basically this naked point of control got front run and it left a poor low there. These attempts by sellers to get us lower could not take that poor low. Also could not take this naked point of control, and I've checked the tick size and it's the correct tick size. So this is not a sort of a what do you call it, an ambiguous kind of level. This is definitely a level that got front run, and a lot of people were looking at this. Of course, it's an overcrowded trade, and these overcrowded trades do often get front run, so maybe that's the reason why we just rallied from there. However, it's happened. Okay, but this level remains a level of interest, all right, to around about 28,500. If we take that, that means that this anomaly here got corrected and this naked point of control got corrected. Okay, so we've also left a naked point of control here around about $29,000, all right, and we've got some single prints at around about $31,000 just above us, and we've got the anchored VWAP all the way up here, 31,600. Okay, so again, all we're doing, we're just kind of ranging. All right, so we're just ranging from around about 31,800 to all the way down to around about 28,500. All right, so we'll just have to play it by ear and see what happens and which way we're going to break. For the time being, I think you do very well of buying at the lows upon confirmation and selling at the highs upon confirmation. Okay, so that's all I've got here on Bitcoin. So moving on to the weekend, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but there's going to be less liquidity in the markets, of course, so which causes for more volatility. So we could just go and tap the highs and then dump, right? Or we could come here and take out the lows and then move up. Okay, but again, we're playing at the lows, it's going to go up. At the highs, it's going to go down. All right, unless that scenario that I showed you how to play a range, then that is also allowing for deviations and the confirmation of are we going to go up, or the confirmation that we're going to go down. So that could potentially play out. All right, so I think that's all I've got for Bitcoin. We can move on to Ethereum, ETHUSD. Okay, so here we're looking at the 3-day chart, and you can see that Ethereum is holding up pretty well compared to Bitcoin. In comparison, we've tapped here the value area low of the 2021 VWAP. Okay, we didn't even test this low volume area here around about 1500. We've been toying with the idea, but it's kind of like holding up. The price is holding up pretty well here around about the $1,900. So we'll just have to wait and see if we can break back above and go all the way back up to 2,800, or if we're going to get stuck here. So we'll just have to wait and see. On the lower time frames, let's have a look if we can find any clues. And interestingly, I've got the 4-hour chart here. You can see that we've basically broke with plenty of volume here, convincingly bounced here on the value area low of the monthly VWAP. Okay, so of course we've got a little bit of resistance here in form of this low volume node. Okay, and even if we break above this, we've still got the monthly VWAP to contend with. But this is basically just a proxy of Bitcoin. Okay, so it doesn't matter what happens. Ethereum and all the altcoins, as you know, will follow the Bitcoin lead, right? So if Bitcoin dumps, Ethereum tends to dump. If Bitcoin pumps, Ethereum tends to pump too. So just keep that in mind, and don't get too obsessed or over obsessed about certain levels on Ethereum. Okay, it makes no sense to just kind of like trade the levels of Ethereum if you're not paying attention to Bitcoin. Of course you can, and some people do very well out of that, but I think you have to be at a different level in order to do that and know the asset that you're trading really, really well. In terms of the weekly VWAP, you can see here on the 30-minute chart, we're kind of reached the value area high of the developing weekly VWAP. Okay, and that's exactly where we're getting rejected right now, which has confluence with this low volume area here. However, we are above the weekly VWAP and we're also above the daily VWAP. This will all change on Monday, of course, while the weekly VWAP will reset, and every night the daily VWAP resets as well. So again, don't get too obsessed with the levels and these parameters, because they change every day and every week. Okay. However, if I was looking for confluence, let's put a line here on the weekly value area low, value area high. That's basically where we are. Where's the value area low of the monthly VWAP? Well, it has perfect confluence with the value area low of the weekly as well, which is round about 19,917, 1,965, something like that. Okay, which as you can see here is also a low volume node where the price has been bouncing. So 1960, damn good year, and that's easy to remember, right? That this is potentially support. If we lose that, then I think we've got some much lower prices coming for Ethereum. So again, the same thing as Bitcoin applies. We've got a little range here, as you can see. Let's move that onto the, let's do that on the hourly, just to be a little bit more precise. I would say that this is the range, more or less. Okay, you can be a little bit more accurate here. Okay, so let's say if this is the range, there's been a little deviation to the upside. We're kind of toying around with the middle bit. We've tested the range lows. We're kind of just accepting above the equilibrium point, which is the halfway point. So we could potentially see a visit to the highs here around about $2,000, 2,158. Okay, if we go all the way up there, I'll be looking for shorts. If we come all the way down here, I'll be looking for longs. Okay, so at the moment we're in the middle, so this is a no trade zone for me on Ethereum. However, the same scenario applies. Okay, if we break above and confirm that this is indeed support, the top of the range, then of course that's a long signal, and we go up, taking profits at key levels. If, however, price comes all the way up here, breaks above, and then accepts back inside the range, guess what? That's a short entry, and we're targeting the bottom of the range at least, if not lower. Okay, so I hope that makes it clear. And it's the same thing down to the downside, right? Just like I explained on Bitcoin. We go lower down here, we either bounce or we break the lows. If we break the lows and find acceptance back inside the range, that's a long. However, we break the lows and then find that the range low is now resistance, that's a short position. And that's how you're going to play it. Okay, and this will give you the, everything, the price is fractal, so everything that you see on the higher time frames starts on the lower time frames. It's just the way it is, right? So even on the 1 minute chart, you're basically forming 60-minute candles, and you're forming daily candles and everything. It all starts on the 1 minute chart. Of course, I do not recommend that you trade on the 1 minute chart unless you've got plenty of experience, but you can look at higher market structure and take levels from the higher market structure if you're trading on the smaller time frames. But everything starts on the smaller time frame, so you have to pay attention to these ranges. 80% of the time, most of these assets are ranging, so it's how they break out of those ranges that interests me. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So moving on to Ethereum BTC. Oh no, let's go and have a look at Exocharts and see if we can find any confluence. So let's start with the volume profile here on Exocharts for Ethereum USD on Bybit. You see we came really close to taking this naked point of control here around about 1890, 1880. And again, we got front run just like it did on Bitcoin, and we just rallied from there. So it's been kind of like just ranging inside of this cluster here. All right, basically just ranging inside of there, and at the moment it keeps bouncing there and on the edge of this balance here, right? But that's essentially what we're doing. So the low volume area above us is resistance until proven otherwise. If we get acceptance above, then that means we're going to be trading inside of this range here, with this being support and that being resistance, okay, which is basically inside of this balance area. So we'll have to wait and see. If we break below and then confirm that actually the edge of this balance area is now resistance, then of course we're going to go much lower, and I'll be targeting round about $1,500 for the next levels, okay. And you can see here that we've got plenty of liquidity here with naked points of control at 1600, 1470, let's say 1500, and maybe even lower around about 1350, okay. Break up to the upside, and of course we got very low volume here. We've got plenty of levels, naked points of control all the way up, and this is the real resistance here, around about $2,800, okay. Of course there's a big high volume cluster there, which is basically where we've been ranging. Previous support turns to resistance, yada yada, the same thing as Bitcoin, right? And this level has not been tested yet as resistance, so that's a high probability trade, and the most likely thing to happen is that we get rejected. All right, so that's very much what I'm seeing here on Ethereum. If I look at the market profile to see if there's any clues, we did take the naked point of control here on the volume profile. Okay, so this is on a market profile, slightly different tick size. Okay, the other one that I just showed you on the volume profile, I've got a high tick size so that we can see further back in time, but actually this is a more granular chart and more accurate, and you can see actually the naked point of control, the naked volume point of control got taken out before we rallied up. Okay, so in terms of anomalies, we do have a poor high here around about $2,100. I'm not sure if we're going to take that. We've left a poor high above us at around about $2,065. Okay, so that's interesting. However, we did leave a poor low as we've taken that naked point of control as well down here. So it's all very tiresome of where we could be just rotating sideways for weeks now until something more dramatic happens. Either way, we've got anomalies at the top and anomalies at the bottom. So again, this is diddle in the middle. You don't want to be taking trades here. You take trades at the top, which usually are sells. You take trades at the bottoms, which is usually buys. Okay, so that's all I've got for Ethereum. Let's move on to Ethereum BTC, and we start with the daily chart here. So in fact, this is a 3-day chart, and you can see that we're kind of still being held by the currently or developing value area low of this yearly VWAP, right? So we're being held there as support at the moment, even though we are below this trend line and below the yearly VWAP, all right, which also has confluence with the value area high of the 2021 VWAP. Okay, value area high there. All right, so this is definitely, like I said to you guys on Wednesday, it's definitely a key level and a level to look for resistance. This could be a great opportunity to buy Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and I think if Bitcoin does rally to the upside, Ethereum will have much more, will accelerate a lot quicker, and it'll be outperforming Bitcoin, in my personal opinion, for quite some time, if Bitcoin goes up. However, if Bitcoin goes down, then it's only reasonable to think that Ethereum will also go down with it and potentially hold up a little bit better than Bitcoin. You can see here we're still kind of forming higher lows. We kind of got a little bit of a parallel channel there going on, even though you could argue that we've just broken out of it. But either way, if this is ETH BTC, you can see that Ethereum, even though it's had pullbacks, it's doing quite well compared to Bitcoin, all right? Unless this is a change in scenario and we're now trading downwards, okay, which is potentially what could happen, all right? So we'll just have to wait and see. We're definitely at an inflection point for both Ethereum and Bitcoin. On the lower time frames, let's see if we find any clues and areas of confluence. We've not quite reached. So the value area low of the monthly VWAP has confluence with that resistance. So this area here, right, has plenty of confluence on all the other charts, okay? It's the value area low of the monthly, it's the value area low of the quarterly. It's also the value area high, the VWAP, and this trend line. So this level remains around about 70,000 sats, remains a contention point, and it will be a very strong resistance until proven otherwise. But in the meantime, you do quite well of just trading the range as well, right? So again, there's no point of like trying to guess the direction. You might as well just wait until the market shows its hand. So that's kind of all I've got for Ethereum. If we go to the upside, of course, then the targets will be bear with me a second, let me just see if I can find the support resistance levels. There we go. So let me just put this on a higher bigger screen. So the levels of resistance are above us here. You've got them all highlighted. You'll be able to pause the video in a minute and see. Like I said to you guys on the beginning of the week and middle of the week, the volume is tapering here like this, and that causes for acceleration like we've seen here, and like we've seen here, the volume would have been tapering there. So what happens is if we do break above this, it'll be very quick for the price to get to these levels, around about 85,000 sats. Okay. However, the opposite is true. We've got a low volume node here, which could potentially be support at around about 65,000 sats. That's where we've bounced here and here and here. Okay, so we've got that level of support. However, if we break to the downside, volume is tapering into a low volume area. Okay, so the price could travel very quickly through here, and depending on the speed of the tape, it could break straight through it, or it could just bounce here, okay, and test the previous support, now it's resistance, and then go lower. So we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. Okay, so all these different correlations with the traditional markets, it's also a bit of a spanner in the works, because it doesn't matter if Bitcoin wants to pump and everybody's buying Bitcoin. If it's so closely correlated with the S&P and the Nasdaq, we are kind of all dependent on what happens in traditional finance. Levels of support in green here. As you can see here, I've highlighted like areas of interest such as low volume nodes and edges of high volume clusters. And we've got here the yearly VWAP as well, or the previous year VWAP, 2021, around about 53,000 sats. So those are basically the levels of support, and those are the levels of resistance. You can pause the video and have a closer look at that and mark them out in your chart if you so want to. So that is it for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So let's move on to DeFi coins and to the lending markets. So we start with FODL as always. So we look at the this is the 3-day chart, and you can see that we're kind of breaking level after level, and there's nothing much has changed since the beginning of the week. These levels of support only hold on a whim, because basically I'm just looking at big round numbers such as 700, 600 and 500 and so on, because we've got no frame of reference of price action. Okay, so what is apparent is that this is a large liquid move, and if the price was to rally, it would be very quick to get all the way to the real resistance, which is this level here highlighted in red. It's the value area low of the developing year VWAP, and it's also a previous level of support, which of course makes for the lower edge of a high volume cluster. Okay, so that red level at around about 1373 on OkEx, this is FODL versus Tether, is really the level that I'm looking at for resistance, as this is largely liquid and inefficient, and these tend to get retraced. So keep an eye on this. If this starts looking like it's going to go up, it will shoot up very quickly, in my personal opinion. So that's on FODL versus USDT. Let's move on to FODL versus USDC. And again, we keep breaking level after level, and it's really a little bit pointless of trying to do technical analysis on when this is like this. Again, it's exactly the same situation. This level here is the real level of resistance, right about 14 cents. Okay, and levels of support are kind of a little bit vacuous, because you know, you're looking at 7 cents, 6 cents, 5 cents. You're looking at all these big round numbers in the hope that somebody bids at those levels, but that's basically it. Okay, so again, if this starts ticking up, then I think that this here is the next level of resistance of 14 cents, and that's the one that I'd be taking profit, or at least looking to to break above. Okay, if we break above this level here, then I think it should be a reclaim, an SR flip, and that resistance turns to support, and then we've got a very good chance to going testing this yearly view up all the way at 18 cents. Okay, but until we break this level, none of that is in play. Okay, and we continue to print lower highs and lower lows, which is basically the trend on every asset right now. FODL versus ETH. Very much the same scenario. Okay, we continue to go down. Obviously, ETH is looking a lot stronger than FODL at the moment. We've got no frame of reference in previous price action, so we have to go with big round numbers, which I've highlighted here in green. Okay, I'll leave that to your in your capable hands. There's no point of me trying to do this on a lower time frames and looking at the market structure on the 15-minute, for example. Although I could, but the thing is, by the time I finish doing that technical analysis, it will all be said and done. Okay, and actually, if you're not sure where to chart this a little bit better, I think the real place to chart this is on Dex Screener. I've got no affiliation. I'm not trying to sell anything or shill anything, but the screen has got charts for lower time frames on, even for the 1 minute on most assets from decentralized exchanges. So just do keep that in mind. Okay, so DEX screen, if you type that into Google, it'll find it straight away. And it's a great platform for charting on the lower time frames. However, for the purpose of this technical analysis, I'm giving you a higher time frame view so that this is still valid after the weekend on Monday when I come back with another TA. Next coin is Binance coin versus US dollar. Okay, so BNB is still trading inside of this red rectangle, this range here. Okay, so we've bounced here from the lows. We're looking at the highs for resistance. We've got a midpoint which could be friction here. So potentially what I've done here, like I said, is I've highlighted two mini ranges inside the one big range. Okay, so this level here, if you are long, it's a good level to take profit. However, if we're at the top here, I'm perhaps looking at closing that trade and looking to enter a short for this side here. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you to do with your money. This is just what I would do. Okay, so again, support at around about $289 and resistance at around about $360. Excuse me, I'm gonna drink some water. So moving on to Binance versus BTC. So if you focus basically on the lines here, you can see here the green lines are indicating support, the red line is indicating resistance. And like I said, once we've reclaimed this yearly VWAP, even if we came and retapped on equilibrium here, excuse me, even if we tapped back here, this should act as support, and the real momentum is going to the upside. So it does look like I was right, and we are going to the upside. So the next level of resistance will be this one. Okay, it's the value area high of the developing year VWAP, and it's also the high of the range. Okay, so this is strong resistance, although it's been tapped a couple of times. It's not a high probability trade because it has been tapped already, but I'd be looking for shorts at these highs here, or at least to take profit on my long if I was long at this. Okay, the invalidation of this range is basically if we reclaim this one, and even if we come all the way back down here and confirm that this is support, this is here. If we bounce here, that's an entry for a long, and I'll be targeting these levels up here. Okay, so again, the same scenario applies. If we are coming all the way up here, try to get back inside of that, and we fail to bounce at the range highs. Okay, a retest of that range high is an entry for a short, and I'll be targeting first this midpoint, and secondly the bottom of the range. Okay, so that's all I've got here for Binance versus Bitcoin. Moving on to Binance versus ETH. Again, BNB is looking very strong. We are approaching an area here that could be potentially resistance here, but I'm more interested in this level all the way up here. Okay, so we could potentially create a little range like I've highlighted with this arrow here. If we get acceptance above here, so even if the price comes all the way back down here and holds that as support, which is, you'll know here, is the value area high of the developing year VWAP, right? So if we find support here, then this level here remains resistance. Okay, and we'll be trading sort of like this. However, fail to get acceptance below that or above that means that this level here would have failed, and if it fails, then we'll be trading inside of this range here. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and we've also got an interesting level here that could potentially be support, which is the point of control and the yearly VWAP. And of course, then we've got this level here. So you could even argue that this here is a little range, and this here is a little range. In fact, let me do it like this. It's easier to show. Okay, you could divide this into separate ranges. But so we'll have to wait and see. At the moment, we are above support, and we're on our way to resistance. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see if we go straight there, which will be looking for a short, or if we come back and retest this level of support and then go up. So that's Binance versus ETH. Let's move on to AAVE versus AAVE versus USD. And this is very interesting. So we have broken, or at least it appears that we have broken above this range here. Okay. However, because we are so close, the range highs here, I've got it at $91. Okay. Current price is around about $95. However, we are very close to the $100 mark. All right, and if I was to move this red line to just below this little order block here. As you can see, it's a high volume candle there, this is buyers in blue, right? So it's a high buying, plenty of buyers there with high volume that got trapped. Okay, so when the price returns to it, it causes resistance because these buyers want to get out. And to get out, they have to sell. Okay, so I would be very tempted to actually allow for a deviation of the top of this range all the way to $100. Okay, so let me just grab the other edge of the range there, and I'm going to make that a little bit higher like this. Okay, and I think that will be a little bit more accurate, to be fair, because $100 is a big round number and most people will ignore the $93 range. Okay, so we'll just have to wait to see. So the real key here is at this level here of resistance. $100 is the high of the range. There's some buyers that got trapped there, so this is the real key level. If we can break above that, then the next level of resistance is this one, but until then this is resistance until proven otherwise. So at these highs here, I'll be looking for the price to kind of bleed all the way down and fall inside of this range here, okay, like I highlighted there. Alright, so it's just a little minor adjustment to what we were looking at, and perhaps I should have noticed a little bit earlier that the $100 was so close. Sometimes I just focus on volume and forget to look at price. I'm more interested in value than price itself, and if you know, you know. So anyway, regardless of that, I think we're stuck in this range now, and at these highs there's a high probability trade that this is a short position. Okay, if it's short position, then I'll be taking profits at equilibrium, right about $60, $55, something like that. $50 is also a big round number, so that could potentially be support. But if we fail that, then we could go all the way down to $20, $16, something like that. Okay, which is 2020's VWAP, and is also the edge of a high volume cluster, as I can show you here. Okay, edge of the high volume cluster. So that's all I've got for AAVE versus USD. Moving on to AAVE versus BTC. Again, we're testing key levels here. So we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, it does look like we've broken above this level of resistance here. I'm going to move that up slightly because, as you can see here, got a high volume cluster there, and that's really where the edge ends, right? So basically we've already failed there. This is the value area low of the current year's VWAP, as you can see that little faint line there. Okay, so this is the real level of resistance, and this is support. So naturally I expect the price to just rotate sideways like this. Okay, break below this level here of support, and I think we go all the way down to this one. If we break above this one, then I think we've got a very good chance of taking the current year's VWAP and this level of resistance here, where the price has failed twice to break above it. Okay, edge of a high volume node again. So that's what I'm seeing here on AAVE versus BTC. AAVE versus ETH. Interestingly enough, AAVE is looking strong against the ETH, and so let me just delete these scribbles because something has changed. We've broken above a previous range. Okay, so this level here is no longer a level of resistance. It should be indeed a level of support. Okay, this is previous resistance here, previous support here, and it was acting as resistance. However, we've just broken above that, and we are also above the developing value area low, okay, of the yearly VWAP. So I expect this level now to hold as support, even if these levels here hold as resistance, particularly this one, because it's at the edge of a high volume cluster. All right, so again, we could be doing something like this, whilst this low volume node here could cause a little bit of havoc and create temporarily two mini ranges there. Okay, so if you're long from the bottom, you want to take profit at this level. If you're short from the top, you want to be taking profit at that level as well. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing on AAVE versus ETH. So moving on to the next asset, we're looking at compound versus USD. And just delete that scribble. This is support. This is the real level of resistance. This is the midpoint. And just like I explained before, this could be a mini range here forming, where this is the first level of resistance, although small. But the real level of resistance is this one up here, which is previous support, and it's largely untested. Okay, so we could also have another mini range there. Overall, of course, this is all one big range. Okay, providing that this level here holds. If that level holds, that's great. This is valid. If it breaks down, then of course we're going to start looking at big round numbers such as 50, 40, 30, and 20, because there's no frame of reference in terms of price action. Okay, we're at all-time lows. Compound versus BTC. Again, quite simply, this is resistance here, this is support right now, so we just trade the range. Okay, if we break above this range, then this will be the next level of resistance. If we break below support, then this will be the next level of support. Okay, up until then we just kind of rotate sideways and we just play around with this little scribble that I see here. Okay, so round about 200 sats for support, 260 for resistance. Moving on to compound versus ETH. Very much the same scenario. We did have a little deviation to the upside there, but very much the same scenario. If you took a short from the highs there, then you'll be targeting the lows down here at 299 way, but 347 way continues to be resistance. Okay, and you can see that that's very close to the value area high. All right, so, and that's also support, and now of course it's going to be resistance. Okay, so we didn't quite test it exactly there. I don't think so. If I put the highs there, yeah, we didn't quite reach it there. It got front run, but as you can see here, again, the same concept. There's a big blue candle there, right, which is basically buyers. They got trapped when the price rallied down, right, on the 11th of May, which is when we had that big dump, and Terra, Luna, whatever, kind of collapsed. So with that said, these buyers here cannot wait to get out of break even. So as soon as the price comes back to that level, what happens? They get out of break even, and it adds selling pressure, because buyers that want to get out, they have to sell. Okay, so perhaps a little bit unsurprising that the price is rolling over here. So what remains to be seen, we're on our way down here now. What remains to be seen is this level, and if it will hold as support. If it holds as support, we continue to range, just like I highlighted there. However, if that if that level fails, then we're going to go on to the next level here, around about 250 way. Okay, and again, big round numbers, 250, 240, 220, 200, and so on. Okay, or you can just go with 300, 250, 200, 150, and so on. Moving on to BAT versus USD. Well, this yellow level definitely proved itself. So that's definitely resistance. Now I'm going to delete some of these scribbles so it doesn't become so confusing. Just going to do that little explanation yet again. So at the moment we are kind of toying with the idea of being inside of this value area low of the 2021 VWAP, right? Which is closed here, 2021. Right, so that's basically where we are. We've deviated outside and we've reclaimed it again. However, we've got two very strong levels of resistance right above us. So if we cannot break above, if we break above these, then that's very good, and that means that we're almost certainly going at least to try this level here. Okay. However, if we cannot break above that, I think we're going to go a little bit lower, and we're going to test the 2020 value area high, which is this level here. So potentially we could see a range forming inside of here. Okay, so it depends. Okay, of course, if we break up to the upside, this is the next level of resistance, and this one here. If we break to the downside, then this here is the next level of support, and so is this one here. Okay, so I hope that makes it clear. BAT versus BTC. And we're kind of rotational inside of these two levels. All right, so I'm going to delete this little scribble here. So this is definitely resistance. It's a higher kind of, like, you got two levels there, to be fair, but it did work as resistance here, as you can see. So this is resistance. This could potentially be support. I highlighted it there just because it's a that's a low volume area. Okay, it's the edge of this little distribution here. So as a result of that, this could potentially be good support. But if its support fails and we get acceptance below it, Then of course this is the new range here, and the next level of support will be this one. So let me just make that a little bit clearer. We've got potentially a mini range forming here. If we break above it, then that's great. We're going to go up to the next level. If we break below it, then this here is the next level of the next range to be trading. Okay, you'll be trading sort of inside of here, right? Or this one here. Overall, again, yet another weird distribution, but it's definitely two levels, two ranges that you want to be looking at and seeing which one plays out better. Okay, so that's all I've got for BAT versus BTC. Let's move on to BAT versus ETH. And again, very much the same scenario. We are toying with the levels, and we're kind of just going rotating sideways. And we're printing lower highs and lower lows, make no mistake, but we are kind of just rotational. And usually what we get is an impulse, a little bit of consolidation, impulse, consolidation. So here we've got an impulse. Now we get a little bit of consolidation. So what I believe that will happen is that we trade inside of this range here. Okay, this is support, this is resistance, and as always, if we break above resistance, we go to the next level. If we break below support, we go to the next level. Moving on to Link versus USD. So again, very much the same scenario. Nothing's changed. The song remains the same, where, you know, Bitcoin is going sideways, so everything's going sideways. So again, let me just delete all of these little scribbles. All right, so you can see that this here, strong level of resistance. This here so far is a nice little level of support. I've got a little red line there at the previous buyer's candle. These guys are trapped. We've already kind of rotated lower. Okay, so I do think that the range is this one here. However, if we break to the upside, then this here should be strong resistance. Okay, that's just going from previous. It's a low volume area there. Okay, edge of a high volume cluster. So this level here is resistance until proven otherwise. So if we break to the upside of above this dotted line, then we could potentially form a little very tight range above here. Okay. If, however, so I mean, this is like, again, one big range with a weird distribution in the middle, you know, with a weird kind of like gap in the middle. All right. So it depends. Are we going to be tightening down here? Or are we going to be tightening up there? Okay, the volume here tapers. So if we do break, and you can see here that this candle was very sharp, very large liquid, inefficient move. So if we do go to the upside, then potentially we could see the price rally very quickly all the way to the value area higher, the currently year's VWAP. But we have no indication of that at the moment. All we can see is lower highs and lower lows. So we just have to go with what the chart's telling us. So moving on to the next coin. So again, you know, obviously, this is the next level of support if we break to the downside. These are the next levels of resistance if we break to the upside, okay? But for now, we're just kind of ranging inside of this range here. So between $8.80 and $6.90. All right, this here, $10 is a big, it's worth saying that actually. $10, big level of resistance, okay? And it's worth saying as well that $5 is also a big level. Again, we're looking at big round numbers. Okay, so moving on to Link versus BTC. And self-explanatory, right? This is resistance, this is support. Let's see where price will take us. At the moment, we've been rejected from resistance. Okay, we could even potentially go as high as where that green candle is, right? The blue candle. We could even go all the way up here, but this is resistance until proven otherwise. All right, if we go to the downside, then this level is support and this level is support. If we break to the upside, then this here should be the next level of resistance, although we've got a little friction point here with the value area low of the developing year VWAP. Moving on to Link versus ETH, very much the same scenario. I already highlighted to you guys on Wednesday that we tested this area here. We were going to test that area. In fact, let me just delete all of that crap. I'll just repeat it again. that the value area low of the developing year VWAP is going to be resistance, okay, like we've seen here before, right? Here we got rejected, here we got rejected, and then here we kind of got front run. It didn't quite get to it, but it's definitely a rejection. And this yellow line that I've got here was supposed to be potential resistance or potential support because it was unclear. However, it's looking more and more like resistance now, so I'm going to put that as red. Of course I could be wrong, but you know, just bear in mind that, okay? So the real range here for me is this one, although potentially we could go as high as whatever that value area high is, okay? So we could allow for a little deviation here. Alright, so just keep that in mind. Alright, and looking at this volume here also means that if we break below this level, there's nothing much down there. We're at all-time lows, so we're gonna have to start looking at big round numbers as well. Okay, so 2000, this is at 3,176. We bounced exactly around about 3,086. So let's say 3,000, 2,500, 2,000, whatever. But I've got a big blue rectangle here for a reason. I think there is previous price action there. Yes. Okay, so we've got a high volume cluster there. So that's why I've put the blue rectangle. So potentially we could see an acceleration towards the lower of the range, right? Because the idea was that all those months ago, all those weeks ago, way back in April the 3rd, we were kind of like just tethering here on this edge, consolidation on the edge of a high balance area. Okay, once we broke below it, I said that now we're inside the big balance area, which is this blue area here, and we're likely to test both sides. So it does look like with the low highs and low lows that we are on our way indeed to these lows here. So invalidation of that is breaking above this value area low here. And that means that we've got potential to go to the next levels of support here. Alright, but at the moment we're not seeing any evidence of that. We're just seeing lower highs and lower lows. So what do? We just trade the chart level to level, right? So this is resistance, this is support until proven otherwise. Okay, so moving on to Uni versus USD. Uniswap, let me just again delete most of these brush marks. And it's self-explanatory really. Okay, this is the range high, this is the range low, and we've got a midpoint which is potential really good resistance. So again, we've got one big range subdivided into two ranges. Okay, so you just trade that. So if we are below that, this here is going to be resistance, of course. This here is going to be support. If we are above it, then this turns to support and that turns to resistance. It's quite simple, really. Okay, but judging by the trend, we're doing lower highs, lower lows again. So we could come all the way up here and then just break that level of resistance, of support, I mean, and go lower and start doing this again. And so on. Okay, I hope that's you guys understand that. So moving on to Uni versus Bitcoin. Very much the same scenario as well. Not much in the way of change. Okay, so this level is holding as support at the moment. We've got a potential level here, even though this could be a range here. We've got the value area low right there, which could also cause resistance, which is why there's a yellow dotted line there. Right, for easy reference for you guys, so you can see the price 1863 here on Binance. So we could potentially kind of like do a little range inside of here, consolidation, something like that. If we break above it, this is the next level of resistance. If we break below it, this is the next level of support. Again, two ranges with a potential inflection point right there in the middle, so we could turn around here and go lower, right? So I just want you to remember that. That's why I've put the dotted line there. So just bear in mind, if you're in a long, to take profits here and just to be cautious and observe price action. But overall, this here is basically the range, right, inside of this green line, gray line. So that's what I've got on Uniswap versus Bitcoin. Uni versus ETH. I'll delete all of those script lines, but it's exactly the same thing that I've been talking over and over again. Same thing, we're inside a range. This here is the range high, this here is the range low, and we've got very strong resistance halfway through in the middle. And again, you can see that these levels get respected. Okay, so here there was a deviation, right? We went to the next level of resistance, yes, but here we got rejected at the value area low. Here we got rejected at the value area low, and now it remains to be seen if we are going to get rejected there again, which has perfect confluence with the midpoint or the equilibrium of this range. Okay, so overall this here is the range here, right? But we've got again the midpoint as a take profit area. Okay, so we could potentially range above or compress below, but overall in the higher time frames and on a higher scope, you can look at the whole thing as a one big range. Okay, break below it, we go to the next level. Break above it, we go to the next level. I'm not in the prediction game. We trade level to level. This is what I do, and so as such, I'm not trying to tell you where the price is going to go. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't claim to know what the future is going to hold. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this for a job. If I knew what the future is going to hold, I would just play the lottery. So we're not gambling here. We're trading level to level. We're using good risk management, and this is why we can take money from the markets. Okay, this is the key, right? There's no secret sauce. The secret sauce really is risk management. So manage your risk adequately. The trend is down. The trend is your friend. Okay, we're printing lower highs and lower lows. The markets look uncertain. There is war in Europe. There is talks of the Federal Reserve tapering off the assets that they have on the balance sheet, also increasing interest rates for the to bring down inflation, the inflation that they created, by the way, but that's a whole different story for a different meeting. But so in the great climate and the great overview of things are looking very bearish. Okay, of course it could turn in a very, very quickly and go bullish, but we'll have to wait for those confirmations, and the confirmations I've already noted to you guys at the beginning of this video. So I hope this helps you stay on the right side of the trades, manage your risk accordingly, especially moving into the weekend, and just play level to level. Okay, I've already highlighted those levels. You can go back to the beginning of the video and see that. We got the range high and the range low, and Bitcoin really is key in keeping an eye on the rest of the altcoins. So with all that said and done, I hope that you guys have a great weekend. Protect your capital at all times, trade smart, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you very much. Bye bye.